Over 2,500 years ago, at the foothills of the Himalayas, a prince was born who would forever leave his mark on the history of humanity. His name was Siddhartha Gautama, the one history would remember as the Buddha or the Enlightened One. His mother, Queen Maya, was said to have had a vivid dream before his birth of a white elephant entering her side. The sages interpreted the dream as a sign that she would give birth to a child destined for great things. Shortly after his birth, a seer named Siddhartha visited the royal palace and predicted that the infant prince would grow up to become either a great king or a spiritual teacher who would renounce worldly pleasures and lead others to liberation. This prophecy deeply concerned Siddhartha's father, King Suddhodana. As tradition dictated, he wanted an heir for his kingdom and the young prince to follow in his footsteps as the future leader. The king then decided to shield the young Prince Siddhartha from all pain, suffering, and even the awareness of mortality. He surrounded him with every luxury imaginable while keeping him blissfully unaware of the harsh realities of the outside world. Basically, the idea was to keep the young prince happy and unconcerned, so that he would never seek a life beyond the palace gates. According to legend, his father built him 3 palaces. One was a palace for the cold or winter season. The second was a palace for the hot or summer season. And the third was a palace for the rainy or monsoon season. These palaces were said to be filled with every possible pleasure, from music, dancing, to the finest foods, luxury furniture, and the most beautiful companions a king could muster. While historians debate the literal existence of these palaces, their deeper symbolic meaning is clear. They represent extreme comfort, privilege, and indulgence. They also symbolize isolation, a cleverly disguised sensory prison designed to shield Siddhartha from the truths of the real world, almost like an ancient Truman Show. The idea of 3 palaces for 3 seasons symbolize that throughout the year, each and every moment was micromanaged in order to ensure maximum pleasure and protection for the young Prince Siddhartha. Thus, the young prince was shielded from discomfort, suffering, and even the sight of old people or sickness and death. Servants attended to his every need. He was educated in philosophy, art, warfare, and governance. Every possible attempt was made to distract him from the realities of life. He was constantly surrounded by beauty, pleasure, and youth. As already mentioned, the old-aged, the sick, and the poor were never allowed near him. Even leaves that had turned brown were said to be swept away before he could see them. In this way, Siddhartha's world was a fabrication, an artificial paradise. Despite this, stories suggest that Siddhartha always had a contemplative and sensitive nature. He married a beautiful princess named Yasodhara, and they had a son named Rahula. By all standards, his life was perfect, but something was missing. At the age of 29, Siddhartha ventured outside the palace and witnessed what are now known as the 4 sights. An old man, a sick man, a corpse, and a wandering ascetic. Someone who renounces all worldly pleasures in the quest for spiritual truth and enlightenment. These encounters had a deep impact on the young prince. For the first time, he understood that suffering, old age, sickness, and death was an inescapable part of life. And the image of the wandering seeker planted a seed. Maybe there was a path beyond suffering. Driven by this question, Siddhartha made a radical decision. One night, he kissed his sleeping wife and newborn son goodbye, left the palace, and renounced his royal life to embark on his quest to search for truth. He became a wandering seeker. He learned meditation from the most respected teachers and pursued ascetic practices, pushing his body to the brink of death in an attempt to reach enlightenment. But he realized that extreme deprivation was just as unhelpful as extreme indulgence. So, he would discover the middle way, a path of moderation between self-indulgence and self-mortification. At the age of 35, Siddhartha sat beneath a fig tree, which would later be known as the Bodhi tree, and vowed not to rise until he had found the answer to human suffering. After days of intense meditation and inner struggle, he awakened. He saw through the illusions of ego, attachment, and desire. He realized that all beings are caught in a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth or samsara, driven by craving and ignorance. But he also saw a path out, the end of suffering or nirvana. From that moment, he was no longer known as Siddhartha, but the Buddha. The Buddha did not claim to be a god or a prophet. He was just a human who had woken up to reality and had spent the remaining 45 years of his life sharing what he had discovered. The Buddha's teachings weren't just abstract philosophy, they were intensely practical. He welcomed people from all walks of life, royalty and poor people, both men and women, skeptics and believers. He challenged the caste system and advocated non-violent solutions to disputes and emphasized direct experience over blind faith. The Buddha's message continues to ripple across the world today. From mindfulness meditation in modern psychology to Buddhist temples in the East and West, Siddhartha's insights into the human condition remain as relevant as ever. In this digital era when we're constantly surrounded by noise, distraction, and suffering, the story of the Buddha reminds us to turn inward and that the greatest conquest is not of land or people, but of the self. Siddhartha's life story is an invitation to wake up, to see clearly, and to live compassionately. What would happen if you sat still, just as he did, and turned your gaze inward? Maybe, just maybe, you'd find your own path to awakening.